Alright, so welcome to this part on the content structure. So as we mentioned in the previous video, so we are going to discuss how we are going to organize this content, all these ideas we've emitted here. How do we organize them on our website? How are they going to look like? So probably for somebody who does not know much about building websites, this could be a bit tricky. It could be like arranging the carts before the cows or the horses. I don't know how the proverb goes, but that's kind of, so actually you want to do something, you don't know how that is done or what it is, so it is going to be a bit tricky. So basically what we do in this case, what we do is to simply think about your website as an A4 paper on which you are kind of thinking of drawing your website. So imagine like, okay, you are drawing your website on a paper, and how do you want it to look like based on the information you have here. So let's get started. What I do, so here we had these ideas, so that's these are ideas, so these are ideas here, so these are ideas. So we emitted our ideas on how our website will look like. So I tend to look at a website in kind of sections. So like I have some core portions of the website that are very important to consider. So what I do is look at the content that can be any content that can be kind of stand alone without requiring any sub content, and so, or any content that could require some sub content. So look at it that way. What content can have some sub contents or not? So in our case, when we look at the picture, for example, there is nothing, it will be standing alone. So the picture stands alone. The name too, when we look at it, it stands alone. So the biography can be made into various sections and so on. So that is kind of up to us if you want to make it either a lot or just a little. So it depends on us. So let me write the ones we just said here, mentioned. So let me say we said picture, then we said the name. All right, so we said the name, then we said let's say the biography is not something really big, so we can keep it with the idea of simple biography. The same thing with social media handles, so they are quite straightforward. It's just one thing, we deal with that, social. And then the about, when we look at about, that can be a bit tough. So we can have a lot of things in about can have some sub contents. So imagine in about we can talk about the person's works, the person's history, the person's CV. So there are so many things that can go on inside the about page, so we keep it separate. And then we look at the works as well. The works go here, although I just mentioned that it could go into the about, but in our case we are going to separate them. We are not going to make the about be the works be under the about, so we'll just keep it separate. So the next thing, let's say the number of jobs that can stand alone is a simple thing. Number of jobs that can stand. Then number of clients as well can stand. So client, right? So the contact can go here, because inside the contact we have some content. Oh, sorry, we have some content that can be a bit tough. So let's assume the contact form, for example, the phone numbers and addresses, Google Maps, all this can go under the contact. So that's a lot. So in addition, as we separate them like this, you could already notice that we are having two classes of content. So the contents that stand simply alone, and the content that can be composed. So the content that can be composed becomes pages. So you can use pages to handle them. So which means if you were thinking of organizing all this on one A4 paper, no, you could rather keep these ones aside the rest. So and then each one of those, which are the pages, can now stand alone as an A4 paper, individual A4 paper. So we will have an individual A4 paper for the about, an individual A4 paper for the works, an individual A4 paper for the contact, and then there's another one that we have to consider, which is the starting page. So when people open the website, what is the first page they see? So this page is usually called the home page. So it also needs to contain something, and since we are talking about pages, so that's the home page. So let me just keep it home. So we have, in total, we can notice now we are having 4 pages. So the home page, the about page, the works page, and the contact page. So now as of the aside, I call them asides or any name you want, or additional information, or the content itself, because if we take the name, the biography, that can be uh, the content for the home page, for example. So as for this, how do we make them now go along the pages? So when we come at the home page, what do we see? What content do we see? How about the picture, name, biography, and others? Where do we place them? All these things. So we have to think in details, and that's when we go about laying out the our web pages. So how do we lay out these pages? So that's the next thing we're going to see, how to lay out the web pages. Now we've seen how to structure our content into various types of content. So now we lay out each one of these pages. So that means how are they going to look like? How is their design going to look like? When we open those pages, what do we see on top? What do we see at the middle, at the bottom, and left and right? What do we see? How do we do that? And then how do we marry them with this aside content we have there? So most of this content aside here are supposed to go along each one of these pages. So now it depends on us to decide where actually are we going to place them. Is it on top, at the bottom, left or right? And so that's all about laying out the website. So layout, so website layout. So we are now going to lay out each one of these pages. So when we're starting from the home page, so when we open the home page, how is it going to look like? And then if we open the about page and so on, how are these pages going to look like, coordinating with the aside content? So thank you for watching this one, and see you on the next one.